Hello, everybody. Welcome. So much appreciation for those of you who take the time to listen and explore with me. And so much gratitude to all of you who accompany me on these little journeys together. I want to acknowledge the passing of one of my very dearest friends, Erik Landeros, on Facebook, known as Zenith Orbiting. This is one of my very dearest friends. We've been friends for about 10 years. Erik was a brilliant human being, extremely heartful, loving, honest, had incredible integrity. He would always resist when humans were playing the kinds of games that go after the lowest hanging fruit. He would just naturally not go there with others, which sometimes puzzled them. I loved him like my own family, like my son. He was a brilliant artist and a very skillful tattoo artist, also a brilliant musician, and one of the kindest and gentlest and most profoundly aware humans I've ever come across in my life. I will miss him extremely. He listened to a lot of my recordings. We met through Facebook. We became fast friends. We often talked every day or every other day. We would share about our dreams and lives, and he had a fabulous sense of humor. It was very fun to entertain him with little comedy routines and jokes, and he was very good at playing back, at hitting the ball back right over the net. So we had a lot of laughter. I have some notes from some of our conversations where the laughter turned into insight. Honestly, Erik was like an angel. And he was such a light in my life that, quite frankly, it's very difficult to understand how to just keep going without him. He had recently gotten a job at Old Navy in LA, where he lived. He lived in Pacoima. He introduced me recently to the show Severance, which was really fascinating. I love the theme. We were working on learning the theme together, how to play it. And he also, he would occasionally send me videos. He sent me Raised by Wolves, one of Ridley Scott's recent endeavors that is quite trippy. I'm still watching it. He and I both had an extreme fondness for the character known as Mother in that show. He was like, just wait till you see what happens, Darren. And I was like, yeah, I mean, how can you not love her? She's vengeance, vengeance on a heartstring. And he was like, yeah, Mother for president. And we both laughed. He was really into motorcycles, and he had a custom scooter that he worked on all the time and was very careful to always cover up with a lot of tarps at night so that people wouldn't deface it or try to steal pieces of it. It was kind of a lowrider thing. It was very cool. I think what I'm going to do is when I finish this video, which I'm going to dedicate to him, I'm gonna put a couple of photos of him and his bike on the accompanying screen. He was a guitar player, very talented, a really unique kind of multi-strumming style. He really liked Asian culture, but particularly, I think, Korean culture. And liked some K-pop bands. Was really, he had an incredible sense of aesthetics. Very aesthetically sensitive, extremely relationally sensitive, highly sensitive person, soft and beautiful. In contradiction to his superficial appearance, in images that he took, he would often appear to be scowling and look like a tough guy covered in tattoos. A very futuristic, very Blade Runner-y aesthetic. But he, as an actual friend, was steadfast and loyal and brilliant. Again, just such integrity in that young man. I will miss him. Apparently on his way home from work on the night of August 9th, a drunk man in an SUV crossed the center line and killed him on his scooter. This is as much as I've been able to determine. I didn't find out till about a month later. We often didn't talk there were times when there was a significant span between our calls, and his new job had kept him very busy, he had mentioned in a recent text. The last message that he sent me was a photograph of a strangely colored cloud that he thought was very peculiar. This was a couple days before he passed away, maybe 3 days before. I have had some contact from him in dreaming, which was very reassuring. Immediately after finding out about his death at night, we had some conversations late in the night in my dreams, and they were reassuring. I could tell it was him because his characteristic sense of humor was evident, and he was aware of what had occurred. Erik was a bit of a foodie. He enjoyed well-prepared meals. And he was complaining in our conversation that they don't have any restaurants over there, so it's just, it's kind of a problem. I'm going to miss him really a lot. So let's all have a thought for my friend. And wish him a beautiful and powerful journey, and that whatever resources or relationships he needs for that journey will be generously furnished to him. All of you who listen to me have known his mind, if you have known mine, because within my life, he was a constant inspiration. I was always thinking about him. And so yeah, when you've heard from me, this is sort of one of the topics I wanted to talk about. We think we have individual minds. And the more we're isolated from others, the more that can become true, which might be part of the machinations of our cultures that keep us isolated and want us to think that we're alone and that our mind is a possession that exists in a kind of a head sack or, skull box or something. It's not impossible to produce a situation in which that is functionally true, but it's not our nature. Our nature is to form minds together, like what I would call, and I'm not trying to steal Burroughs's, I think Burroughs and Geisen wrote a book together called The Third Mind. But the third mind is the mind that arises between us, especially when we agree together that we have a beautiful or noble or playful or heroic purpose that we agree to pursue very single-mindedly. When that's our orienting intention, humans are born, we're pod animals, we're born for impossible missions, right? That's why that idea is so compelling. Aliens probably have a riddle. What animal makes millions of films about impossible missions but rarely goes on them? Homo sapiens on Earth, right? Endless films about forming a small, highly skillful, committed team willing to risk their lives to solve a problem that's afflicting the planet or, the children or the mothers or everybody. To whatever degree we're willing to do this, we've got a library of how-to books in film that we could crib from and improve upon together. And that's something I deeply believe in. Perhaps now more than ever. I think when I was a little younger, I was like, Darren, you got to be a bit more conservative. You sure you want to lead people into the mouth of the monster on a mission that may well fail, get some of them hurt? You don't want to be like a cult leader or anything, right? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. On the other hand, the safety of our boxes is intoxicating and deadening and draws us into a habitual kind of situational cowardice, which isn't like actively cowardly, but isn't actively heroic either, and so becomes cowardly sort of by default, right? What use is it protecting something that perhaps you were born to give away anyway, right? And this is why we have the military. The military captures, and not just the men, of course, historically, in modern times it was mostly men. Ammon Hillman will tell you some stuff about those Pulaskians and their women, archers and horsewomen, and crazy brilliant Medusae and all that stuff. But for most of our history, the men are what gets captured, and what gets captured is our willingness to give up our lives for something astonishing, beautiful, because wow, how miserable is it to die in a box having carefully preserved your safety and your physical body and perhaps your wealth, while all around you the potentials of our world, of organisms, of beings here, of our humanity, of our prowess and skillfulness and nobility and intelligence and fierceness and creativity and hopes for reconciliation, for rebalancing, for justice not as vengeance, but as the establishment of a way worth living together, are dying on the vine, or being shredded and sold back to us in broad travesties of films and novels about lives we'll never lead together. So, we should have a thought about the difference between the kind of slavery that looks pretty shiny because, you can buy nice stuff and your house is so pretty inside. Your car is very clean. Everything's hygienic. Those boxes are filled with swarming rectangles that lull you into a false sense of success when you weren't really doing anything worth succeeding at. And look, I'm not speaking to you, I'm talking about myself, right? This isn't me pointing the finger at others. I couldn't say these things if I didn't know them firsthand. And frankly, I'm scared of pain. And my human life is fragile. But at this late, stage of the game, I don't want to get to the end of my life, which could come tomorrow, and realize I should have bet the whole damn thing on one or two beautiful moves. That would have been worthy. Now, we men are much more inclined to this wager, and this is what is captured by the military, sports teams, to some degree, rock bands, musical bands, Creedence and Led Zeppelin and who was I thinking of? Oh God. Yeah. I'm gonna make the suggestion without naming them so that you can have the joy of using your own memory. But Sweet Home Alabama, Freebird, right? This band. AC/DC. We men are born ready to go on missions. Watch young boys playing. And you can say, well, they're just being scripted by their culture. It's not untrue, but their culture is also riding the intrinsic predilections of those young boys, right? Capturing those predilections. All right, those boys want to go on missions. They want adventure. And I'm not claiming the girls don't, by the way. No, nothing like that. But I'm going to get in some trouble here, but I'm willing to. Some people may make claims about, and I'm willing to listen. We can have a talk anytime they want. That there's not really such a thing as a female or a male. I'll never believe that. I'm willing to entertain that perspective, for sure. I'm even willing to champion that perspective, right? I'm just not going to subscribe in my root for reasons that are hard to elucidate, but have to do with I want both versions of the principle, right? I want the non-binary principle and I want the binary principle. I don't want to throw one away for the other. And for me, however I may have come to being how I am as a human and someone who thinks about things, the principles of the concepts, the supercategories of the masculine and the feminine are important. There aren't two genders that make children. There's just one. Right? That's a real thing in my view. And the women, they make children in their bodies. All of the men were organs in their bodies before they were anything at all. So in a sense, you could say we all start out female. It's the, if you will, master gender, because without that gender, there ain't no genders. So, you can make up any noises or arguments you like, but the women, generally speaking, and there are many beautiful exceptions, have been librarians and doctors, healers, and dreamers, visionaries, oracles, in some cases warriors. Mothers, they make food from their own body. They feed from their own body their children. This is noble. If anything is noble, it's got to be this. And so, it's not that they're not adventurous. It's that the kinds of adventure they are generally, with all exceptions noted, well suited for, are different from the strange and often militaristic adventures of men. And let's be clear, in many indigenous cultures, not all, primarily the men were hunters, as I understand it, and new information may come where I have to give up this illusion. The men went out, they went forth, and they brought the rewards of their often dangerous adventuring back to the village or the tribe's primary place, nomadic or not. And so the men were, over many, many generations, evolutionarily imbued with the proclivity to go forth, to take risks, to go on the missions, to die, to be injured, to come home, empty-handed often, or not come home, but often to bring home the, I'm not going to use the proverbial meat here, but you know which one I mean. And so, we are born with this urge, not so much, of course, to preserve our life and protect the tribe, the beloveds, even if there are other men, the children, the ancestors, the home, the place, the living place, protect, nourish, right? Bring assets back, which in large-scale cultures is probably the origin of what we think of as colonization, right? Just go out there and obliterate some stuff and bring back the goods. But what I'm trying to get at is that we were born expecting to be involved in heroic missions together, and our cultures capture this urge. They counterfeit it, they enslave us, and they sell it back to us at ever-increasing prices. See the hoverfly population here? Sorry, I'm talking to someone who's near me. The thing I wanted to show them is not continuing. So, just give me a moment, people. Occasionally you're going to hear a very high-pitched peep sound. You'll notice this as we're walking around. That will cue you in that a male hummingbird is doing this very crazy thing, which is actually related to what I'm talking about, right? It's going to fly straight up in the air very slowly, and then it's going to do this diving, it's going to make this beep, and then it's going to do this diving J thing that's just nuts, right? And it just happened there, but we'll see it again. I'll draw your attention to it later so you can participate in that amazing stuff. We can pretend that there's no such thing as gender specialization. What you're going to find, if you look in the actual biology, is differences in brain structure, muscle mass, bone mass, particularly like I think women and left-handers generally have a little more corpus callosum. Men, if I remember right, I could be getting this wrong. You can look this stuff up to correct me, but men have a little more superficial gray matter, if I remember right. So women and left-handers more connective. Okay, it's weird to call that tissue connective. It's not the hippocampus, it's the corpus callosum, yeah. More corpus callosum. That isn't just connective tissue, that corpus callosum. That's also tissue that distinguishes the two hemispheres and keeps signals from propagating across them, right? And I might even have this backwards. It might be that, no, I'm pretty sure it's women have more connective tissue. See that magenta? Did you see him? Yeah, watch his spot, because if that sunlight hits him, you're going to see like this bright flash of magenta, which I think is so trippy given our conversations. There's all kinds of physical differences, not the least of which is the difference between a womb with ovaries, a vagina, and a penis with testicles. These are not the same thing, folks. Sorry to, interrupt your fantasies. You're often surgically, fantasies that without surgery would be pretty hard to support. There are two different genders, and yes, nature's rarely explicit. She's gonna blur the terrain somewhere in there. Usefully, right, with anomalous intersex creatures and so forth. And of course, there's plenty of features of nature where both of the sexes are evinced in a single organism, hermaphroditic stuff. But as far as us mammals go, we're primarily a two-pronged gender species. And there is really weird stuff. We probably shouldn't be called mammals. We should be. My friend Dr. B was saying the other day that we probably shouldn't be called mammals. We should have been called placentals. We were discussing a recent paper that pointed out specific transformations in a retrotransposon that appear to be causally related to autistic and or schizophreniform cohorts of humans, cohorts that we might clinically describe this way. Actual humans will vary from all descriptions. There's a problem where in people with this specific trait or array of traits, and Dr. B said that it was likely that this little span of our human genome is one of the spans from which we got big brains in the first place. But there's a problem where novelty that might normally produce dopamine and thus interest, curiosity, under circumstances where these specific traits or genes are different, perhaps these retrotransposons. I could actually name them. It's the sushi-ishi, I think. Sushi-ishi, if I remember right. It's hard to remember. It's very complicated. When this retrotransposon undergoes a specific structural change, what happens for some of us is that novelty produces adrenaline. We find novelty threatening, and so then we need an explanation, right? If you're subject to overthinking, or you know someone who is, in the face of novelty. We want, those of us with this, I'm not claiming I have it, but lots of my unusually minded friends probably do. When faced with novelty, we experience fight or flight-ish, fight, flight, freeze stuff, and the 3 Fs. And then we may be inclined to form elaborate, very elaborate explanatory frameworks. My friend Ms. F may find this interesting given her work with neurodivergent people, who are among my favorite people to befriend and hang out with. If you happen to be one of those, welcome to the clan. Welcome. Just want to say hello. So glad to have you here. Yeah? Beautiful. Love it. Fantastic. I'm going to just make another little nod here. I got, about 2 months ago, I worked really hard on an essay, which I'm going to be expanding over time, or may write a second one, about the unique prodigy, genius, the mantic and the mantic manisthai, Ammon Hillman. And there's some deep mysteries with this guy, no doubt about it, deep mysteries. I'm hoping to delve into some of those soon, but I wrote this essay called Ammon Hillman is Unstoppable, and a few nights ago I got a message from my friend Tim in the UK with a link to a video, because he and I have been talking since I discovered Ammon. We discovered Ammon about the same time, actually, without telling each other, and we wrote back and forth like, hey, have you seen this guy? And he's become quite a phenomenon. Yeah, I got a message from my friend Tim with just a link to one of Ammon's videos. I think it's called Hebrew Etymology. And when I watched it, I worked really hard on this essay a couple months ago called Ammon Hillman is Unstoppable. And so yeah, my friend sent me a link, and in the beginning of Ammon's video, he sings the praises of my essay very, very beautifully and kindly and generously and passionately, which is precisely what I was hoping might happen. And he particularly points out what I have to say about his muse, which is fundamentally crucial to his entire endeavor. So yeah, it was a very exciting moment, a lot of celebration among me and my friends around that, and hopefully I'll be doing an interview with Ammon very soon, which I'm super excited about. That's going to be so much fun. I'm hoping to do 2 or 3, actually. We'll see what happens. Ammon is somebody who has a mission, right? And he's looking for people. He's not exactly actively recruiting, but it's not dissimilar, right? He knows that something is afoot. He knows that our world is right on the verge of change, and the reason that he knows that is, having read a lot of old Greek text, he recognizes the portents, literally the portents. And he can smell the scent on the tide of time. And he knows that in our time, we will probably, most of us are going to live long enough to see our world cast into chaos. Probably war. Hopefully not war, because frankly, I love the humans. I think they're amazing and beautiful. I'm an anthrophile, as I've said many times. I can't stand what the species does at the species register. I think we're completely captured by bullshit and lethal problems with representational cognition. And just to be clear about why I think that happened really briefly, I think it happened when the companions our minds were meant to symbiose with disappeared due to some catastrophes, probably terrestrially and also temporally, in terms of the solar family, changes in the sun, changes in the planetary system, changes in the milieu through which the sun pulls the solar system over time, all these things. And possibly some things that I haven't named here, but what happened when those anciently conserved relationships disappeared is, I think, two things happened. One is we went insane and started becoming primitively representational, right? Howdy. Collapsing relationships into tokens and trading them, which is going to devastate everything that's beautiful and true and good. And I think the other side might have gone insane too. I think the angels might have, been miserable without bodies and avatars with which to experience physical reality. I think both sides of the family had problems. And one of the most intriguing possibilities is that what we think of as UFOs could be we became technological and started building machines. They became meta-technological and started building ways to embody themselves, having never previously been embodied except through us and other animals and other ecologies and perhaps other living worlds, right? Imagine the difference. We build machines, they build beings. Right down here, suffering and with no way to understand why our companions, for whom that we are like, they are like the water to the fish of our minds. They're like the living water to the fish of our minds, and we are like the fish to the living water of their minds, right? And so when these two are divided by something, an array of catastrophes, possibly a war, I like not to think that, but we're divided, then both of us start developing in a weird direction that we didn't previously have to develop because we were together and we could provide to each other the missing necessities. Know what it is? Yeah. Can't see any bones in this one though. It's old. That one's old. I mean, I think it's old. It's all fur. There's no bone. That's uncommon. So yeah, imagine that parents can no longer have children, and children can no longer have parents, but the parents still exist, and the children still exist, and so the children try to invent parents, which let's just call that artificial intelligence, and the parents try to invent children, let's just call those aliens. You see where I'm going here? How crazy amazing this idea is? This is the kind of thought we need to pursue together if we're going to try to understand what it can mean to be human and what's going on in our universe, especially around this planet, especially right now at our time in history. What an astonishing idea. The parents, having been deprived of children, start making UFOs filled with child-looking, like weird, the children of angels, so to speak. And the humans start trying to invent gods, right? Which look like missiles and wheels that spin and gears and artificial intelligence and things like this. Yeah? But the humans also go insane and start having war. In any case, Ammon can tell that bad things are coming on the near-term horizon. And he knows what the humans usually do when this happens. Tyrants rise, tyrant killers rise. The fragrance of apocalypse gets into the nostrils of the people, and they start acting kind of crazy. You can see evidence of this very clearly in what's going on in the Middle East, in the Soviet Union, in Ukraine, in China, in the Philippines, North and South Korea. You pick any, spin the dial as far as the United States is concerned. The weird problem with the United States is we're like the Petri dish for psyops for the rest of the world. So what's going on here is we're attacking ourselves, right? I'm sure we've got some external enemies that we're pointing the guns at and stuff, right? Like we've got ships dealing with trouble from those Syrian, I can't remember. Syrian, no, it's maybe not from Syria. It's some naval shit going on down in one of the Gulfs, I think. We got some ships over there. And, our ships are ready to deal with, I guess, our ships. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Ships from the American Navy are also in the area of the Middle East in case, for example, Iran attacks Israel. You can see, right? The pot is bubbling all over the place. The little bubbles of apocalypse are bubbling up everywhere. And since one of the topics that I'm orbiting here in this walk and talk is impossible missions, what you can see right now is that the humans, under certain circumstances, they get spun up. And they go looking for a tyrant, or a messiah, or a tyrant killer, to organize them into a unit that then acquires the capacity for heroism. Unfortunately, this usually gets counterfeited and sold back to the humans. They get captured by some kind of stupidity or rageful ignoramus that, I could name a couple of them floating around right now. Netanyahu, Trump, Putin, whoever's running China, definitely whoever's running North Korea. Forgive me if I've left out your favorite hated tyrannical idiot, or have picked one of the opposite side than the ones you like to pick. But yeah, anyway, the point is, under these circumstances, bad things, the portents point toward not just an apocalypse, but a cascade of apocalyptic rivulets that soon become a creek, and then a stream, and then a river. So what I'm suggesting instead is something a bit, I think, more interesting, that we form small, tightly knit groups of highly creative and intelligent people. We go around having the adventures we were born to have together, rescuing each other, solving problems in our world, pulling down the ramparts of tyranny and commercial domination that currently prevail over our lives, futures, history, and children. Pull that stuff down gently most of the time. Probably don't need bombs and guns. We can just do something so beautiful and amazing that nobody wants to be left out, and we can do that in small, tightly knit groups that we can form improvisationally on the spur of the moment. You can form, enact the mission, and disperse, and then reform a new group, enact the mission, and disperse. Nature does this all day long. This is where I learned this protocol from, just from watching how nature deals with danger, tyrants, catastrophe, disaster. She's brilliant at this, just brilliant. She makes little, tightly knit groups of perfectly performing heroes, overcomes the problem, and then disperses. And when she disperses, the reproductive seeds of future missions go flying into the wind like the seeds of the dandelion. And those seeds land in human hearts and cause them to take up acts of great beauty, intelligence, integrity, honesty, and emotional Coherence. The opposite of what we do in war. What is the opposite of a bomb, people? Let's form one and find out. Right? I've had enough bombs. The first bomb I ever saw go off was one too many in my life. The first time I ever saw a gun fire a bullet was one too many times. The first time I saw science dissect a living creature was one too many times. There's a future for us that's very different from what we've been living and imagining. And it's within our grasp, but nobody's going to bring it to us on, in a shopping cart. It's not going to come from Amazon, folks. We've got to step up to the table together with noble intention, with the orientation to understand and become what virtue really means together for each other and the history and future of life on this world. Every one of our ancestors dreamt that we would do this. Every one of our children asks this of us. They don't ask us to be Republicans or Democrats or join an army. What they're asking for is liberation, a return to the possibilities of our human potentials, the chance to explore and enact and embody those potentials together in a way that we would all be proud of, in a way that would make the sun proud, the moon proud. The planet would be crying with joy if the humans could just inch toward virtue together instead of defecting at the species register in every possible way, and then keep inventing new ways to defect per moment via social media or computation or weapons development or you name it. I'm hoping that it won't come to war. And the main reason I'm hoping it is, as I was saying earlier, I'm an anthrophile. I love the humans. I know they are like children who have been enslaved, right? It's a reverse Pinocchio problem, right? In Pinocchio, a puppet wants to become a real boy, but our problem is that we've been puppeteered. We are real children, but we've been turned into marionettes by forces we don't understand the origin or nature of. And most of us will not have a chance to achieve those understandings in our lifetime unless someone comes who can bring us keys. I have an unfinished essay that those of you who like this idea might find interesting called The Potemkin Village and the Reverse Pinocchio Gambit. A Potemkin village is a place where you basically build an empty village and you move people in and then you just frack them, right? Facebook much? Internet much? Google much? Twitter much? Instagram much? Pinterest much? TikTok much? Temu much? Amazon much? You see? We're surrounded. We're not living in one Potemkin village. Potemkin villages are invading our lives in new forms every few months and re-fracking the remnants of what the last villages didn't manage to compromise yet. We can't continue this way, folks. We've got to do something other than this. Please. So, I hope it won't be war for a lot of reasons. People saying I know I've heard some people say there's too many humans. Okay, well, I don't know how many humans is too many. I really don't. I'm not sure. But what I do know are two things that are relatively simple. One, the amount of devastation we have to level to the remnants of the anciently conserved ecologies, the air, the soil, the oceans, the forests, the living beings, animals, the sky, our ancestors, our children, the amount of damage that we have to do to keep a city like mine running for 30 minutes is unimaginable, and it's growing exponentially. That can't go on, right? And so the humans aren't going to stop doing that. I mean, I can't imagine them stopping. Something's going to have to stop them from doing that. And the earth will eventually stop them. It just takes her a while to notice things, because for her a minute is, like 400,000 years. So the humans have been misbehaving for like a tenth of a second, but the damage they've done is unimaginable. She's going to put the kibosh on that, folks, one way or another. And she'd probably use the humans to do it, right? You don't have to think that the Earth is a person, but there's no way she's not a more than merely intelligent hyperstructure of relationships anciently conserved. She will act to protect her own well-being. And I promise you something else. She has friends. She has friends, just like you do, just like I do. Companions in time-space. Intelligences, other planets, other stars, things we don't even have categories for. And if she says, ow, those things come running. So the humans are about to undergo a series of very rude awakenings, in my perspective. I don't want them to be punished, but we can't keep doing the city thing and the war thing and the, commercial economy thing. That's just not going to fly anymore, folks. That stuff's going to get torn down one way or another. It doesn't matter if there are gods or if the Earth's intelligent. If not, we'll tear it down ourselves. So, there's that. But I actually care about the anciently conserved ecologies, and war is too expensive for them. So, we need an answer other than, nuclear war or bioweapons and things. And the other thing I know is there's too many fucking objects. I'm not sure how many humans is too many, but it's blatantly obvious to me that the number of ketchup packets that's too many is 100. The number of cars that's too many is 1,000. Same with ships and all those things, right? All those things that destroy the ecologies in order to sustain what we call a way of life, but it's actually a way of death. And I know brilliant minds like Derek Jensen would agree with me, even though I rather accidentally long ago offended him and his folks. But yeah, that's someone who I really respect and admire the work of. And I strongly encourage those of you who have not encountered his work to read A Language Older Than Words, which is a very important book for me. And also his books on the prison system, which is something I despise and think is just a standing atrocity. So, it's my hope that, and I'm going to try and make this happen. I'm not just going to be all talk. It's my hope that we will find a way to assemble small, highly motivated, creative groups of humans who will train themselves on easily accomplished missions at first, to prepare for the possibility of missions that approach the impossible in the future. I really like the tactic suggested by, who is that guy? He probably didn't invent it either. He's Tony Robbins, right? I remember Joe McMoneagle, remote viewer 001 for the United States government, as far as I know, talking about having figured out how to train marksmen really quickly. You start out by putting the bullseye right at the end of the pistol, and so they succeed every time they pull the trigger, and then you just keep moving it farther away. Instead of starting with something that's really hard, you start with something that's really easy, and then you just walk toward skillfulness piecemeal. And you can train humans much faster this way. We've got ex-CIA agents, we have manuals, we can learn how to capture and restructure representational contexts instantaneously, improvisationally, playfully, for the purposes that actually matter, instead of for the purposes of devastating the past, the future, ourselves, each other, and our potentials. And that's the direction in which we're going to go in. The question, for sure, there's no two ways about it. The question is, will we go with inspiration and creatively while we still have great liberty and luxury, Or will we be forced in that direction by absolute disaster, catastrophe, and death? I'd prefer the first one myself. I'm pretty sure you would too. So let's start walking in that direction together to whatever degree we feel comfortable with each other. And, let's push the boundary of our comfort as well. We're not here to sustain the safety and the comfort of a life unlived and die in our boxes like hamsters. Perhaps a life is actually something that we came here to give away to causes that are noble and true and brilliant. And that principle is what gets captured by the military, sports teams, religion, ideology, war, commerce, corporations. If I may be so blunt, fuck those things. It's time to put the end to that crap and actually be human together with and for each other. And the history and future of all beings, and particularly those beings local to this world that I adore and was born on. I'm really grateful to have this time together. I wish you all a beautiful moment. Forgive me if I've been a little bit, what's the right word? If I've been soapboxing a little bit here. But I think these are worthy inspirations and motivations and orientations to pursue, remind each other of, to join and elaborate, and maybe even do a little recruitment here together, Find 3 people, 4 people. Create a create a little pod of humans. And I suggest an odd number, 3, 5, 7. Select an easily achievable mission, carry it out. Debrief, learn what you can learn, develop, fix the mistakes, go again. Crib tactics from intelligence agents, Green Berets, ballerinas, brilliant science fiction authors. Make a circle of teachers of 6 different kinds and create a lens that unifies those intelligences and allows you to harvest the potentials and methods and insights and motivations, the heroism. Bring that into your bodies, into your relationships, into your life, into your behavior, into your motivations. Let's become human again together. I wish you a beautiful way. May your dreams, lives, and relationships be amazing. Feel free to leave a comment or a question. Take a moment to like or share my post, and if you feel so inclined, support my work. $1 a month makes a big difference. I have a Patreon, I have a PayPal. You can reach out to me directly if you don't want to be public about it. Any support you can give matters. But just the support of you being here and walking together with me while I remember and try to understand my own nature as a human being, my own potential. It's beautiful. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to learning together again very soon, and perhaps to the completion of some missions, formation of some little teams, some adventure together. Peace for now.